Hello, everyone. I wanted to thank everybody in the RetroBlasting audience for the great response to the latest video, Indiana Jones and the Series of Misadventure. That was one that you guys have been requesting for quite a while now. I didn't buy the toys back in 2023 except for one, and the drumbeat kept going, and you all said, we really want to see this. Every few weeks, there would be multiple messages from people saying, can't wait to see your take on the Adventure series. When are you going to talk about the Adventure series? And I was like, oh, I don't even own any of those. Fortunately, because I dragged my feet, I was able to get them on clearance after I decided enough people really want my take on this. And I was really happy that you guys, by and large, were happy with the video. That being said, there were a number of comments on the video that bring up an old wound. They are an old gripe that never seems to die. And it comes back around with key videos here and there. This one happens to be that one so far for 2025. And it's always a strange sort of like bizarro universe disingenuous argument that's being made. And I can't figure out why. The argument is that RetroBlasting is so much more negative than they used to be, than I used to be. This has recurred a lot over the years. And it's always delivered with the caveat, every time, without fail, that there was a time in the past somewhere where there were these halcyon days of RetroBlasting, where all of his videos were positive and gave off the good feels and all this kind of stuff. Now, I don't subscribe to the positive versus negative thing. I subscribe to what do we observe? What does it mean? Let's analyze it. I don't really care about positive and negative. I don't care about feels. That's what gets me into trouble with a lot of people when they approach my content. It's, yes, they have me at a disadvantage, but they have themselves at a disadvantage at the same time. And maybe that's unique to the toy collector YouTube space. Maybe there are a lot of toy channels, maybe the vast majority of toy channels are just out there to give you that dopamine hit. They're out there to give you those feels, that moment of hype, that moment of comfort, whatever it is. I don't operate that way, and thankfully, YouTube does not mandate that people create videos specific ways. Although there are a number of hand-wringing people in every YouTube audience that want to control not only what content is made, but how it's delivered. That is a problem. And in this particular case, the reason that I find it really funny when people do this and assert that there was this golden era of RetroBlasting when they loved my videos and now they don't anymore because, quote unquote, I'm too negative now. I try to explain to these people when it happens or when I see the comments. I always try to explain, hey, that's a you thing. That's not a me thing. And I don't say that from a place of haughty indifference. I say that from a place of down in the trenches experience. Because for me, there's never been halcyon days of RetroBlasting where everybody loved my stuff. Since the very beginning, since the first time I slapped around Thundercats, the first time I called out all the weird stuff in Voltron, all of the Star Wars follies, which were all done just like Thundercats and Voltron to make people laugh, from the very beginning, 13 and a half years ago, almost 14 now, people have been in the comments saying the exact same things that people say to me throughout the life of the channel. Now, at that time, there was no time before where they loved my stuff. It was just new, but the argument was still the same. You're too negative. You're a hater. You're this, you're that. You hate Kenner Star Wars because of these Star Wars follies. But what became hilarious, very amusing, was that as the years went on and that argument got propped up again by new people, those people would cite the videos that the first round and second round of people hated as the videos that they thought were all warm and good feels and classic golden era retroblasting. And I've always tried to impress upon them, and it never works. They never listen. They never plug in. They can't get there because they can't get out of the way of their own feelings. They're incapable of seeing things from somebody else's perspective because they are 100% emotional all the time. They are driven by their emotions. From where I'm standing, there was never a time where people didn't think my videos were too negative. There was always a revolving door of people who decided that my videos were too negative and eventually started deciding, because I finally had a history, the videos before these videos weren't negative. Well, that's funny because when you thought those videos weren't negative, there were 50 people trying to knock down my door saying those videos that you liked were too negative. And I learned very quickly that there's no way to really please these people. There's also no way to show them that they're the ones that have changed. I mean, I've been online 14 years. Some people have said they grew up watching my stuff, which is very humbling. But a certain percentage of those people will then turn around and say, and you're not the same as you used to be. No, pal, you're literally not the same as you used to be. You are different now. And if you were a child then, that means you're possibly a very, very late millennial or a Zoomer. And your generational culture is very much based in keeping everything copacetic and all about the emotions and all about good feelings. And if you've embraced that, rather than enjoying facts and ideas for what they are and accepting a little bit of snarky humor and knowing that these videos aren't out to personally attack you because I don't know who you are, if you can't get there with that, then you're never going to find that happy place. And consistently, and this is the part that I find the most hilarious, is that these positivity police, the ones who are always touting they want positivity, they want this and that, they're the first people to come out and be super negative at a content creator in the comments. They don't want you to be critical, so their idea of how to fix it is to be super critical of you in the comments of YouTube. Which is a huge hypocrisy and I think proves my point, which is that positivity at any price is a lie. Nobody operates on that level, which is why it shouldn't even be considered as a factor. It shouldn't be about positivity or negativity. It should be about the observations and the facts in front of us and how we analyze them and which ones we think are beneficial and which ones we think are detractors from the experience. But this whole be positive all the time or don't talk about it at all is ludicrous. Because over and over, those same people say, if you don't like it, don't talk about it. Well, it doesn't work to point out that my audience, of which they are a member, wanted this video about adventure series. It doesn't make a dent with them. And it also doesn't help to try and point out that, well, guess what? If you don't want to talk about things you don't like and you don't think people should talk about things they don't like, why are you in here leaving a missive in the comments talking about a channel that you now don't like anymore? Or a personality that you don't like anymore? Because you've changed, for better or worse. But they don't live by their own rules, because if they did that, then they would have to concede that their worldview is flawed. If you have to acknowledge and look in the mirror and admit that you're using negativity to combat what you perceive as negativity, and you don't believe that anybody should ever be negative, oops. And if you believe that you should never talk about things you don't like, well, then you are really never going to admit that you're constantly in the YouTube comments talking about things you don't like about something to the person that created it, that did not have you as a target when they made it. It's a very strange psychological conundrum that I've faced with people a lot, and I don't really know how to get them to see that. The other factor in this that consistently comes up is most of them end up admitting that they've only been watching certain things. They don't actually click on everything that I create. And then you find out that they're really only watching about 20, maybe 30% of the videos that you make. But they are certain that they know exactly the tenor of your video channel. But they don't, because they haven't been watching your stuff. So in my particular case, every time this has happened, I've always been baffled, because I say, well, my stuff's positive. Like most of the time. Oh, sure, I've done negative videos. Negative for them. I call them, critically analytical. They call them negative, because they're all about their emotions. But I'm not going to sit there and try and sugarcoat or silver lining literally everything that comes in front of me, and or just not talk about it, especially when my audience is asking me to talk about it. My supporters wanted me to talk about this line, and a lot of them, thank God, knew going in what they were asking for. They know when they are asking the guy at RetroBlasting to talk about something, there is a good chance, it's not always guaranteed, but there is a very good chance that if there's something wrong with the item or items, he will bring it up. I will bring it up. And there's nothing wrong with that, except for a certain group of people. Every time I go back and I audit my content in moments like this, I realize that they're not watching everything. Most of them admit it, and then they give up their hand. But I think in all cases, they're not watching everything. One, because the algorithm isn't spoon-feeding it to them, and they're not very engaged subscribers. But the other factor is when I actually went in and looked at all my content, and I went back 3 years this time and looked at my content, the vast majority of it was positive. And I even conceded videos in this audit that I would have classified as positive because I was trying to be entertaining and funny and whatever. I was trying to make a video that makes people laugh. When I know I'm trying to make a video to make people laugh, I see that as a positive video. I don't see that as a negative video. But I conceded with some neutral scoring things that other people really got angry about. So for example, the Batcave video, the Batcave playset. I did that video to make people laugh. I had all the RetroBlasting gags in there and all the stuff that I thought really just pulling out all the stops to make people laugh. But a disproportionate number of people, a massive disproportionate number of people, not outweighing the positives, but enough where it was clearly an issue. They thought that video was just on its face, just super negative and too adult literal and all this kind of stuff. And they didn't see the jokes at all. I mean, they just, and I have to believe that a lot of those people are probably into trains, dinosaurs, and the Mos Eisley Cantina. But that being said, there were a lot of people that just didn't get the joke, even though the jokes were pretty out there, like running over Alfred in the living room with the Batmobile. I mean, like the whole musical number. So even though I saw that video as immensely positive as an example, I gave it a neutral score for the purposes of this audit because it clearly polarized some people. And then when I ran the whole thing, I created this huge graphic, which I'm going to show you now, and I ran the whole thing. I'm going, yeah, even with me giving up certain videos that I swore up and down were done with positive intent to make my audience laugh, one day, there's still an overwhelming number of green check marks on here that indicate positivity versus the red X's that indicate a negative video, a critical video, a video that's tackling a tough subject, or something that I ended up not appreciating. The overwhelming majority of my videos are positive. Unfortunately, a lot of emotionally driven people are also totally lacking in curiosity. And they don't watch anything that they don't recognize, and they certainly don't watch anything that YouTube doesn't hand them on a platter. So it's a two-pronged problem. It's a perfect storm of overconfident ignorance. And I freely admit that while I'm exhausted by it, I'm still going to keep doing what I do. I'm not going to pander to this complaint. I never have and I never will. And the reason that I won't is simply because they keep coming back. Their brain is starving for real content. Their brain is starving even though they don't recognize it. Their brain needs the production value, the good writing, the insightful commentary, the unapologetic observations. That's why they were there the first time around, enjoying all those videos that another group of people totally hated for the same reasons. And that's the point. At one time, their brain and they themselves appreciated and valued what this channel brings to the table that so many other toy channels don't. But then somewhere along the way, they turned into the latest round of people that I've been dealing with since 2012. They think that I've changed. But I'm the one with the paper trail. I'm the one that's read the comments for 13 years. I'm the one that's dealt with that same argument over and over and over again. And the simple truth is, a lot of people change, and then they don't want to acknowledge that after they changed, they've either become too sensitive or too fragile. They definitely don't like me anymore, but they don't want to admit to that because they're all about positivity, which is a broken worldview, doesn't exist, it's a fraud. And so instead they decide it has to be RetroBlasting that's changed. And I'm still here, and I'm still making my videos, and I'm still being just as unapologetic and sarcastic as I was when I said that Thundercats were racist porno kitties. It's never changed. And the overwhelming bend of my content is to make people laugh, to make people think, so we all have some fun, pointing out some things that are ridiculous while also throwing in those jokes. And every few cycles, some people just abandon that. And they get real angry. And in the name of positivity, they get real negative. But I got the green check marks to prove my side of the story. And I'm going to keep making videos. Things that people don't see in any other toy channel. Like this right here. What?